Disney villains don't die like they used to. And I know that's kind of a weird sentence to start with. Like, if you walked into a room and heard someone casually say that out loud, you'd probably back out slowly and pretend you never heard it. But if you grew up watching classic Disney movies, you know exactly what I mean. There was a time when Disney didn't just kill villains, they sent villains to the Shadow Realm through unnecessarily traumatizing methods that made you, a child, stare at the screen like, oh, so we're doing that today. Maybe it's morbid. Maybe I do need therapy. But honestly, I miss it. I miss when villains didn't get arrested or redeemed or put in timeout like misbehaving toddlers. I miss when Disney would straight up launch a villain off a cliff, make them get eaten alive or get smote by their own karma with the dramatic flair of a telenovela finale. Because now we get twist villains with paperwork, twist villains with consequences that feel like HR got involved, twist villains who get hauled away by the cops like they committed tax fraud. I'm sorry, but bring back the drama. Like, remember King Candy? The last truly satisfying, spectacular Disney villain death? My guy got sucked into a jet engine like he was reenacting that scene from The Incredibles. That was the moment I knew Disney still had some chaos left in them. Haven't seen anything like it since. But let's be for real, old school Disney used to have some absolutely uncalled for execution methods. Whoever was working in those story rooms was not okay. And honestly, bless them, because these villains didn't just die, they died with italics, with drama, with sound effects that haunted your sleep. And the first one I always think of, the one that lives rent-free in my mind like a confused Airbnb guest, is Clayton from Tarzan. Because Clayton didn't just fall. Oh no, Disney didn't leave it at he fell to his death. That would have been too normal, too easy, too humane. Disney animated that man's hanging silhouette. Enlightening, swinging. As a kid, you're like, oh wow, Tarzan saved the day. As an adult, you're like, ah, yes. A public execution via self-inflicted vine entanglement? Of course, why not? And the worst part, Tarzan actually tried to help him. That's the part people forget. Tarzan said, dude, stop. You're gonna... But Clayton is like, no, I got this. Proceeds to hang himself like a Looney Tunes character who took a wrong turn emotionally. Like, it's brutal. It's dark. It's horrifying. It's peak Disney. And Clayton wasn't even the only one, because if Clayton was brutal, then Dr. Facilier said, hold my tarot cards. People always act like Facilier's death was subtle. No, his own song dragged him to hell. His friends on the other side showed up like, hey, King, remember that contract you signed? And he was like, haha, yeah, about that. And they said, no, we already filed the paperwork. Then they dragged him into a tombstone with his face on it, like they printed his obituary early. And the worst part isn't the screaming or the grabbing or the glowing green light. It's that they sang to him while doing it. They sang to him cheerfully. That's not a death. That's a musical number sponsored by the devil. And honestly, Facilier deserved it. So did Scar. So did Frollo. Which is why their deaths hit different. Because Scar lost the fight with Simba, but that's not what killed him. What killed Scar was karma showing up in the form of 46 starving hyenas like, hey King, remember when you blamed the famine on us? Funny story, we're still hungry. And they didn't just kill him, they ate him. You ever watch a hyena eat? No, they don't wait. They start from whatever part is nearest and work inward like a living garbage disposal. Scar didn't get a funeral. He got composted. And if you look at the shadows, Disney basically said, we can't show the cannibalism directly, but we will imply it in silhouette form. So vivid you can smell it. Which brings us to Frollo. My God, Frollo. Disney said, how do we kill a religious man in a religious building without violating violating any actual religious guideline. And someone answered, we let the cathedral itself attack him. Notre Dame literally came alive like, you know what? I've had enough. Then Frollo delivered his iconic line, and he shall smite the wicked. And then God said, I'll do it myself. He falls into fire. He dies in the metaphor he kept preaching. It was poetic cinema before we had Marvel's multiverse. This man had a full biblical judgment scene animated for him. Classic Disney said, kids, gather around, let's watch this man get smote by the architecture. And honestly, he had it coming. Just like Scar, just like Facilier. But Clayton didn't have it coming as much as he had poor decision making and a machete. Very different energy. What's wild is how many people missed Clayton's shadow as kids. Like one person said, yeah, I always wondered why they'd zoomed in on the knife. Meanwhile, the entire silhouette of a corpse was dangling in HD behind it. And honestly, ADHD is powerful. It protects, it shields. It says, you don't need to process the trauma today. Focus on the shiny knife. And then there's Hades. People forget that Hades didn't just get punched into the underworld. He got dragged into the river of screaming souls where he is going to be drowning forever. Imagine your worst fear being turned into your eternity. Disney said, let's make drowning permanent, but one villain death always weirdly messed with me. Scroop from Treasure Planet. Because he didn't get eaten, he didn't fall dramatically, and he didn't get smitten by a cathedral. The dude floated off into space, quietly, slowly, peacefully, and then suffocated. And for some reason that hits harder. Falling is quick. Fire is painful but fast. Hyenas, terrible but instant. Floating into space like a loose balloon. That's psychological warfare. Then we have Hopper from A Bug's Life. He got fed to baby birds. He was tossed into a nest like a warm appetizer. And Syndrome from The Incredibles, he got sucked into a jet engine. Do you know how insane it is that Pixar made that canon in a PG movie? My guy didn't just die, he disintegrated at 700 miles per hour. But you know who might secretly have the worst death? The evil queen from Snow White. Because she fell off a cliff, a very tall one, but Disney didn't stop there. They made her get crushed by boulders after she hit bottom. Like, girl did not get one death. She got the deluxe package, which brings me to the one fact that has haunted me for years. Originally, Gaston survived his fall. He landed in the river, crawled out, then got eaten by wolves, the same wolves that attacked Belle earlier. Disney didn't put that in the final cut because it was too much, which is hilarious when you consider that the same studio showed a man being hanged by a jungle vine. Disney in the 1930s to 2000s was chaos incarnate. Disney now is like, the villain is misunderstood and deserves a redemption arc and gluten-free dinner. And you know what? I get it. Times changed. Parents complained. Society became very concerned about what children watch, but at what cost? We didn't even realize how brutal these deaths were until we grew up. And honestly, we turned out fine, mostly. Nothing a little therapy couldn't handle. We went from villain gets eaten alive by starving animals to villain is gently escorted off the property by local law enforcement. And like, I'm not saying we need to traumatize kids again, but maybe, just maybe, Disney could bring back a little chaos, because a good villain death, it's a release, like, it's cathartic, it's satisfaction. It tells the audience, you watch this guy be evil for 90 minutes, here's the payoff. I don't want to watch the villain apologize. I want to watch the villain fall off something really tall. The pattern is iconic. Disney villain just existing and Gravity taking it personally, and nothing beats a poetic villain death. Frollo being destroyed by the same church he used to justify his crimes. Scar being eaten alive by the same hyenas he manipulated. Facilier being dragged to hell by the spirits he thought he controlled. Poetic justice. No. Poetic violence. And let's not forget Atlantis. Like a movie that went way harder than anyone remembers. Rourke didn't just die. He turned into a crystallized monster, cracked apart, and exploded into diamond confetti. That's not a death, that's a final boss animation. Turbo from Wreck-It Ralph. He knew what was coming and still couldn't control it. The terror in his voice when he is dragged into the beacon. Unsettling. And I love it because Disney used to let villains be villains. They didn't soften their edges or explain their trauma or make you feel bad for them. They said, this guy is awful. Watch what happens next. And we said, yes, chef. But now, modern Disney is allergic to consequences. The villain is like, I tried to commit mass murder. Disney is then like, aw, sweetie, sounds like you need a hug and maybe a song about forgiveness. No, give me the cliff. Give me the lightning strike. Give me the hyenas. And the funny part is the only villains who ever truly got what they wanted were the hyenas. They wanted food. They got food. It just happened to be Scar. Honestly, good for them. I think what I miss most about old villain deaths isn't just the drama, it's the finality. When Ursula dies, she explodes. When Maleficent dies, she gets stabbed with a magic sword the size of a stop sign. When Oogie Boogie dies, he unravels like a faulty sweater. These were endings. And maybe that's why they stick with us. Disney villain deaths weren't just bad guy defeated, they were story beats with weight, visuals you never forgot, payoffs that felt earned. Now, the biggest twist a villain gets is, I was secretly your childhood friend. Or, I'm not evil, just misunderstood. Like, okay, cool, but where's the dramatic orchestral score as you plummet into a fire pit? I think deep down, what we're nostalgic for isn't violence, it's unity. Old Disney said, sometimes bad people face consequences. New Disney says, we can redeem everyone with communication and a hit single. But not everyone needs a redemption arc. Some people just need a dramatic fall and a choir. And honestly, we were okay. We survived these villain deaths. We walked out of the VHS era emotionally stronger because childhood isn't soft. Kids understand fear. Kids understand consequences. Kids know that if a lion uncle kills your dad in a canyon, that uncle should absolutely be eaten by hyenas. So yeah, maybe wanting old school villain deaths back is a little morbid, but it's also nostalgic, comforting, a reminder of when stories took risks and animators said, oh, what if we traumatize children but tastefully? So in the end, no, Disney villains don't die like they used to, but maybe they should. And if Disney ever decides to bring back the chaos of the cliffs, the fire, the poetic justice, the karmic snapping, the shadow silhouettes, I will be seated with popcorn ready for the next villain to take a dramatic swan dive into cinematic history. Because sometimes the most magical thing Disney ever gave us was a villain falling off something tall. And honestly, if Disney ever decides to bring back those unhinged operatic gravity has entered the chat villain deaths, I will personally roll out a red carpet for them because I'm tired of watching villains get hauled off like they shoplifted a Funko Pop. I want the chaos. I want the drama. I want the silhouette of someone falling off a cliff for no reason other than cinema. But until Disney remembers who they were, I will be here reminiscing, overthinking, celebrating the era when villain deaths were basically mini horror films baked into children's movies. And if you made it all the way to the end of this rant with me, bless your heart, you're my people. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which Disney villain death absolutely lives in your head rent-free. Was it Scar? Clayton? Was it Hopper getting served to baby birds like a snack sampler? I need to know. This channel is basically a safe space for overanalyzing cartoons and questioning why we turned out like this. So if that sounds like your vibe, stick around.